If you're like me and you're into your Anthuriums, probably one that's on the top of your list or was at some point was the Queen Anthurium, the Anthurium Warocqueanum. I've had some really choppy experiences with this plant in the past where I got one during the plant hype, the plant boom, and that unfortunately died because it fell. Little accident. I then got another one from Eastern Europe, from Poland. That one came through. It succumbed to the very, very cold 2022 winter. And trying again for the third time, I bought another one from plants.com, a very well-known nursery in the Netherlands. And I showed a video on this 8 months ago, giving you an update of start to finish with this plant. Go check it out because I think that will give you a really good understanding of how far we've come with this plant. And I think it will help you to understand why I'm so excited to show you this plant today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Queen Anthurium. My days. This is an 8-month update on this bad boy, on this bad girl. Look at it, with a brand new leaf. So chunky, so thick. All right, let's get into this. Yes, so this is an 8-month update on this plant. So since I last showed you this plant, I think, if I'm not wrong, this was the latest leaf. This was the leaf that was hardening off at the time. And since then, unfortunately, we've only had 2 leaves on this plant. This one, which is the latest on the taller stem, taller of the 2 stems. Look at it, it's so thick. I really didn't expect to come out like that. And then we've got this one, which is still very, very small and still hardening off. So it will be interesting to see how this one comes in, how it looks. I think there is no better time than now to show you this plant, give you an update. So there are a couple of changes. And if you've seen the other video, one of the first ones that you will notice is that we have a new pot. I had this plant in a clear plastic pot before and in a super, super, super well draining soil. Honestly, so soil in the soil makes just really, really good stuff for the plant. They really, really like it. It did really well for a long time. But what I was doing, it was my mistake, was that because it's so porous, the water would go through the pot and it would sit in the cash pot, which is this. I have like a little bowl here. And unfortunately, there was early signs of possible root rot. So I very quickly did a repot, and I think I have a video of it. And if I do, I'll include it here. I've noticed just a little bit of yellowing on my Queen Anthurium, just like here. I don't know if the camera will pick it up very well, but you can see that we have some yellowing leaves. This one is probably the worst one. The plant is still very well rooted in the moss bowl here. You can see we have some new roots that are emerging, so all very good signs. So what I'm thinking is that I might need to repot this plant. The soil is fine. What I think needs to happen is that it needs to dry out a lot quicker, allowing this plant to go through that wet and dry cycle. So today I am going to do just that and put this plant into a terracotta pot. So I have one here and use the same soil, check out the roots, make sure everything's okay, put the plant into here, and then that way I can then better monitor the watering of this plant. Give the plant just a little bit of a squeeze just to loosen that soil. So you can definitely see there are lots and lots of roots, really healthy roots on this plant. There are some that were a little bit brown that I could see from the outside of the pot, so I just want to double check that there's no rot in here. Doesn't appear to be. So that's a really good sign. We'll check the actual soil. We have some roots that have fallen off in the pot, as you can see here. We'll just quickly repot the Anthurium. Just a layer of soil, just to make sure that the plant has something to grow into. Really want to make sure that that moss pole, makeshift moss pole, is inside of the pot and really secure. Now we'll just come in and backfill, give the pot a good shake. So there we have it. The Anthurium is now potted up into a terracotta pot, and hopefully from here on out I'll be able to monitor that watering, making sure it has that wet and dry cycle that it really likes, and keep a better eye on it that way. There were clearly signs of root rot, or early signs of it. So I decided to act quickly and to put the plant into something that can more easily evaporate out. And terracotta is really good for that because it's so porous, and it allows the plant to dry out a lot quicker, allows for that gaseous exchange. And my theory was, if ever there was water left in here by accident, it would then be absorbed into the terracotta pot itself and then be evaporated out. So that was my theory, and that seems to have worked well. Since I showed you that video, there were no new leaves. The plant was completely dormant. It stopped its growth completely. And only now, since after changing this pot, do we have some new growth and the plant is starting to kick back into life, back into reality. One of the other things I noticed, one of the things that made me think, you know what, maybe I should change out this plant is because the leaves were starting to go ever so lime green. And if you compare, for example, these two leaves at the top here, this is the older one, this the new one. See how dark and lush that is compared to this one, which is just slightly ever so faded. That could be completely natural that the plant does this after a while, but from the videos that I've seen online and the photos I've seen of people with some really, really mature Anthurium Warocqueanums, is that's not the case. So that was another reason for me doing this. One of the things I think that might have saved this plant is the moss pole that I've made, my lazy moss pole, which is just a bottle cut in half, stuffed full of moss, and I think I've mixed in some semi-hydro mix in there as well. We have a lot of the plant, probably the majority of the plant, rooted into this. So if the soil got too wet, too drenched, and even though there was a bit of root rot here, the plant could still sustain itself for much longer just off of the growth into the moss pole. So that was really good. So that's something that I would definitely suggest that you do for your Anthurium, your Queen Anthurium, if you do have one or indeed plan to get one. I alluded to it earlier, but let's talk about it. Look at the size difference. This thing is very, very thick. This one, not so much. I'm not sure what that one's going to look like when it's fully hardened off, and I'll be sure to show that to you once it is. One of the things that I really love about Anthuriums, or one of the types of Queen Anthuriums that I like, are the really slender ones. And the second one that I got from the Poland seller was really thin and slender. It was really, really nice, and I was so gutted that I lost that plant because it was literally the ones with the massive, tall lobes and very thin, very slender. It's unfortunate that I lost this one. It's the one that I prefer. And this one certainly gave signs that it was slightly thicker than that one. But now with this new leaf coming out, look how thick that is. It's still fine. I think it still looks nice, but I would certainly prefer it to be a lot more slender, a lot more like this new one that is coming in now. But this is certainly a plant that the fact that I've got it this far is gone through one growing season with me with very minimal damage. And despite it, you know, having the opportunity to kill over and die by those early signs of root rot, this plant has certainly proven to be quite tough, quite the warrior. I should rebrand this from Anthurium Warocqueanum to Anthurium Warrior or something, right? Because it is certainly tough. And that's what I said in my last video, right? I think if you're buying Queen Anthuriums, it's certainly worth speaking to the sellers, understanding the environments that they grew their plant in, looking at the mother plant if it is indeed a cut-in, just to make sure that the stock that the plant is coming from is a really strong and healthy one. And I think that will help you a lot more in the long term than just sort of trying to do a rescue. I've tried to do Anthurium Warocqueanum rescues before, and honestly, I haven't had much success with that. Definitely worth just sort of cutting your losses and starting in a really strong position. The plant is still growing in my grow cabinet where it gets around 70 to 80% humidity during the day, and then that increases overnight. So it's still getting lots and lots of humidity, which is nice, and I think the plant certainly appreciates that. But one of the things I would love to do is be able to grow this plant out in the wild, out in the open, just, you know, so I can really look at it, really take advantage of that beauty and everyone else could see it. But I don't know, I'm a bit nervous about doing that. Maybe eventually, I think we've got maybe one more leaf space for this plant to grow before I have to take it out. And when that time comes, I think I will look at how I transition that plant over. To be fair, I should probably look at doing that now, like, you know, slowly starting to step the plant out of the grow cabinet, maybe increasing the airflow, and that might help to reduce the humidity in there just ever so slightly so that it can better acclimate to my regular room temperatures. But that remains to be seen. That's probably something that I'll do next growing season. I'll leave it for now and then start that journey next time. I think I've had a really good experience with this plant. The journey hasn't been a smooth one. I was hoping that by now this plant was a lot bigger. The growth has proven to be a little bit slower than I expected, but that could be because of my mistake that I made early on. So definitely, I think I made the right decision in putting this in some terracotta. I think if you have a different setup to me, Or even if you're just more observant, where you actually go water your plant, you can ensure that you empty out that water in the cash pot, then go for it. But for me, I didn't want to take that risk. I wanted to limit that as much as possible, give this plant a real good opportunity to start up again. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a bit of a brown in here, but that was my fault. I think I broke the leaf, so that resulted in it yellowing. There's not really much damage apart from just the slight fading of the green. The plant seems to be doing a-okay. This Anthurium, this Queen Anthurium, is just so lovely. I think I'm still on the journey to find that really slender Anthurium Warocqueanum, but for now, I think this is scratching the itch for having a queen in my collection. And what a queen it is. It's so bushy. I've never had a Queen Anthurium this bushy or this able to hold on to as many leaves as this. Usually when I've had one, the 2 other times that I was unsuccessful anyway, it's only been able to hold on to maybe the main leaf and maybe one more. And then whenever a new leaf will come out, one of the leaves will drop off. I don't think I've lost any leaves apart from maybe one of the earlier leaves. It was a smaller one I think I pulled off. Despite the plant having this yellow tinge, it's been really good at holding on to these leaves. So again, that goes to the point of having a plant that's really strong to begin with. But yes, the Queen Anthurium, I wanted to come in here and give you a very quick update on this plant, talk to you about what's happened, what changes, and give you some reassurance if you were like me and you were having challenges growing this plant. I think once you get your hand on the right one for you, I think it's worth it, and you could in fact have something that looks similar to this. My next journey for this plant, the next thing I want to see from this plant is a lovely inflorescence. That's what I want. I want an inflorescence so I can enjoy it. I've actually just noticed, as I'm talking, I think we have another growth point. That is so crazy. So we're gonna have 3 growth points on this thing. Oh my days. Look. Let me bring you in. Look. Let me be careful. I don't want to break anything. See right here where my finger is, just there, that is another growth point. Oh my days. I can see a little leaf petiole starting to poke its little head out. I don't want to break it. Oh man. But I don't know if the camera will pick it up. See that little light green thing? I'll zoom in on it. That little light green thing. That is so interesting. Wow. So not only is this leaf new, so that's on the same stem. So the same stem that brought us this leaf here is about to bring us another leaf at the top here where it was propagated from above. So wow, we're gonna have, this is gonna be real bushy. This is gonna be, all right, I take it back. I want this plant now. I want this plant to grow. I want it to be full bushy. Maybe the thin, skinny ones, I've never seen it do something like that because it's always, in my experience, just sort of one stem. But this one is growing in all different shapes and sizes and all different directions as well. So I think this one might be the winner. Oh my days. Down here, just where the stem is as well, where this new leaf came out of, we have another stem. I think I touched it and broke off the tip. So, oh man, that's a shame. And then on the other side as well, we have another signs of a new growth point. So I think what this plant will be is a very bushy, very dense Queen Anthurium. And I'm looking forward to that. I really am. But that's everything on the Queen Anthurium, the Anthurium Warocqueanum. Let me know about your journey with this plant in the comments below. Is it a plant that's still on your wish list if you don't have one? Is my journey, my experience with this plant, is it encouraging you to get one? Or is it making you think twice? I would love to hear about it in the comments below. But that's everything. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, keep planting.